Aloha and thank you for watching This Is Now. This year, a number of high-profile crime cases will be getting underway in federal court.
Some of the trial delays are a result of the COVID pandemic. I spoke with our HNN chief investigative reporter Lynn Kawano for a breakdown of what we can expect along with the rules that govern the U.S. District Court.
There's a lot happening this year, and I don't think it was unexpected, Dylan, because of COVID. A lot of things got pushed back, and now it's just kind of undoing that backlog. But there are a lot of high-profile cases this year in particular. Right now, they've started the case against Michael Miskey, the criminal case against Michael Miskey and his two other defendants. That's in the jury selection phase, so it's the initial parts of the trial, and they're still working to this day at trying to narrow down a group of jurors. They need 12 plus alternates. And because this case is supposed to take months, the judge said it could take up to 6 months. We need a lot of alternates. You don't know what could happen. Someone could get sick. Someone's family member could get sick. So you always need to have a lot of alternates. So that's going to take a while. That could take another week up to possibly to get a jury seated, and then a couple more days before they start the trial with opening statements. In the meantime, what's going to come in soon in the spring is going to be the Kaneshiro case. So Kaneshiro and the Mitsunaga defendants, the former, of course, city prosecuting attorney, is on trial for conspiracy. That trial is expected to start at the end of February into March. This one won't last nearly as long, several weeks, but still it's going to be a lot of people in federal court. And then later this year in the fall, in the September, October, November timeframe, we're going to have the case involving the former city administrators, Roy Amamiya, Max Soar, the one-time police commission chair, as well as Donna Leong, who is a former city corporation counsel. So there's a lot going on throughout the year. There's always going to be a jury, I think, going in and out of federal court. And the federal court procedures are a little different from state court, so we won't be able to get the daily updates that we're used to getting in circuit court.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the rules and procedures of federal court in a moment, but I want to talk about this for a moment, and correct me if I'm wrong. For the general public, most of these cases, I would say the most recent or memorable one is the Miskey case that caught a lot of attention and headlines, but the Amamiya, the sword, that also kind of seemed to be from a while ago. Can you talk about the time frame from when these headlines started emerging to now? How long of a process has this been?
It's a long process. And if you remember, right, the Kealoha case took a long time as well. So they were arrested in 2016 or put on leave on 2016. Some things started falling in place then, but the trial wasn't until 2019. Because of the pandemic, things take longer. Things have been taking a lot longer. So Michael Miskey and his co-defendants were arrested in July of 2020. We're going into 2024. So it's always about a 3 to 4 year time frame, and definitely a little more delayed because of the pandemic. All of these arrests happen during the pandemic in terms of the Miskey case, as well as the Kaneshiro Mitsunaga case. So while it's not unusual that it takes several years, I think it is unusual that we've taken a little bit longer because of COVID.
Now let's talk about the rules and procedures of federal court. They are very, very strict. Tell us about that.
They're very strict. So we're often used to seeing on the news some video from inside the courtroom, some testimony. We can hear from witnesses. We can see when the verdict is read. That's all in state court. And in state court, you can have cameras in the courtroom as long as the judge approves that. In federal court, there are no cameras allowed in the courtroom. There's also no cameras allowed in the hallways. So we don't even get them walking in and out into the courtroom. What we do is we get them walking in and out of the courthouse. So it is a lot more difficult for us to present the news to people and to help them understand what's going on. We'll have a sketch artist for some of these big cases and for some key moments, but you won't be hearing directly from these witnesses as they take the stand. You won't be able to see them on the stand. You also won't be able to see the defendants in some of these cases unless they're acquitted, because Michael Miskey is in custody. He's been in custody since his arrest. So we see him in the courtroom as he walks in and out with the U.S. Marshals, but you won't see him walking in and out of the courthouse. You won't see him on a public street where we can get video of him. As opposed to Kaneshiro and the Mitsunaga, that whole defense team, they are free out on bond, so they will be seen shuffling in and out of the courtroom. But again, nothing from inside other than sketch artists and from what we tell you happened in the courtroom. Oh, it's so difficult because I have to paraphrase what the witness says or quote what some of the witness says. And because we can't record it, we're writing really quickly. You know, some of the younger reporters, Eddie Dow from Hawaii News Now, said, how am I going to remember what people are saying? I said, pen, pencil, and paper. That's really how we have to do it in federal court.
Well, probably for a good cause, a reason that a lot of people haven't been in federal court. For those who have not been, that's what it is like inside there. Our Lynn Kawano keeping an eye out on all things happening in our federal court system. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us.
2 Honolulu police officers who were shot during the New Year's Day fugitive chase are now out of the hospital. HPD posted the update on social media, which says the officers are now recovering at home. The 2 were hospitalized after Sydney Tafokitau opened fire during an island-wide manhunt on New Year's Day. Tafokitau was the suspect in multiple shootings in recent months. He was killed when officers returned fire during the shootout. A stalemate in the contract talks at Kapi'olani Medical Center. 600 nurses are getting ready to walk off the job. The week-long strike starts on January 21st. The hospital says it has already retained temporary nurses, so services won't be impacted. Ben Gutierrez has reaction from both sides.
The union served Kapi'olani Medical Center with the strike notice at the end of the first day of a scheduled 2-day last-ditch bargaining session.
They gave us their last, best, and final offer, and today they wouldn't budge on anything.
Members of the Hawaii Nurses Association say the sticking point for them is an unsafe nurse-to-patient ratio, leaving many nurses overworked.
We did a survey, and the ratios was at the top. It wasn't about wages necessarily, and it's about retention and keeping the staff that we have.
Patients are not numbers. Ratios are numbers. And there's a distinction between that.
Kapi'olani's chief operating officer says the hospital is following national staffing standards and that medical teams have to be flexible in treating patients.
If we have a patient that's very ill and the patient and the family needs more time, then the nurses need to be able to provide that time.
Kapi'olani also contends wages are the nurses' top priority, offering experienced nurses wages between $124,000 and $151,000 a year for a 3-day work week, not including overtime.
It puts our experienced nurses at amongst the highest paid here in the state of Hawaii, and also puts them the second highest paid in the country.
They have to wait 5 years for that to happen. We want 3 years, 2 years less so that more nurses get it. I mean, to survive in Kapi'olani after you finish graduating, training, after 2 years, some of them, they're gone.
The hospital says it is disappointed by the strike notice, but it has already prepared for a possible walkout and pledges that patients won't see a difference in their care.
We will continue to provide excellent care, and we have a temporary workforce that is well trained to provide the same quality of care that our nurses provide.
Both sides are still scheduled to return to the bargaining table tomorrow for one last chance to avert a walkout.
We continue to go to the table and we want to continue to bargain in good faith, but it's up to the employer. Do they want to meet us halfway? Do they want to continue to do it? It's up to them.
Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
4 people were hurt when a 96-year-old driver flipped his car in Makiki Wednesday. Now, witnesses say he clipped another car on Ke'eaumoku Street, then hit a 29-year-old woman on the sidewalk. Then the vehicle launched into a fence, a tree, and a concrete wall. 2 passengers in their 70s and the woman on the sidewalk suffered serious injuries. The driver was listed in stable condition. And a gun scare put Waimanalo Elementary and Intermediate School on lockdown yesterday afternoon, and that also led to the arrests of 19-year-old Kason Herzog Phillips. Officers say they found him with an airsoft gun. The good news is no one was hurt.
An Eva Beach family is calling on a dog owner to come forward after an attack at the Ke'ahumoa Place apartments. The sister of the 8-year-old victim says he and his friend were riding their bikes yesterday when they came across a young man and his dog. She says the man told them his pit bull was friendly and that it was okay to pet the dog, but then the dog got aggressive.
When they went to go pet the dog, that is when the dog tried to nip his friend's face, turned and had a lockjaw on my brother's arm, dragged him off his bike, dragged him a little on the sidewalk, and he just had his paw on his face. He has a paw mark on his face, and he had to get stitches by his ear because a claw ripped his ear open.
The family says the owner took off with the dog while 3 bystanders came to help the boy. HPD has opened a dangerous dog case.
The New York civil fraud trial against former President Donald Trump is winding down after 3 months of testimony in Lower Manhattan. CBS's Bradley Blackburn has the latest from the courthouse.
With closing arguments underway in his New York civil fraud case Thursday, former President Donald Trump made his case directly to the public.
This is a political witch hunt, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before.
Inside the courtroom, Trump, who had wanted to give a closing argument himself, spoke briefly, calling the proceedings, quote, a fraud on me, before the judge cut him off.
Now we'll see if we're going to get an honest verdict. We didn't have a jury. We had no rights to a jury.
New York Attorney General Letitia James brought the case, accusing Trump and his company of financial fraud by inflating the values of its real estate properties in order to get better loans. The state is seeking $370 million in penalties. The case could end up barring Trump from doing business in New York.
The state's argument is very clear here, which is we have put on plenty of proof that the former president inflated his assets by a huge amount in order to enrich himself and his family.
Before the trial started, the judge had already ruled that Trump engaged in fraud. The big issue that remains for him to decide now is what, if any, damages to award.
I'm not sure you can show a high level of damages or ill-gotten gains from this transaction.
Trump disregarded limits imposed by the judge during his comments in the courtroom. He used them to maintain he did nothing wrong.
We're a very innocent company. We did everything right.
The hearing came hours after Judge Arthur Ngoron's home received a bomb threat. He is expected to issue his ruling by the end of the month. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
GOP presidential rivals Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis went head-to-head in their final debate before next week's Iowa caucus. Meanwhile, frontrunner Mr. Trump held his own event at the same time. Jared Hill has more.
Just days before the Republican caucuses kick off in Iowa, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in their first head-to-head debate, offering themselves as the alternative to frontrunner former President Donald Trump.
He said he was going to drain the swamp. He did not deliver that.
I don't think that President Trump is the right president to go forward.
The former president declined to appear at the debate, instead headlining a solo town hall on Fox News. Trump taking a calmer stance regarding getting revenge on past political opponents.
I'm not going to have time for retribution.
Former President Trump spoke sparingly about the stack of legal issues during that town hall, and he's not speaking today when he is expected to show up to court for the closing arguments in his civil fraud trial.
The judge ruled Trump couldn't make his own closing arguments in the case after refusing to abide by a provided list of conditions.
There isn't a path for me to win the nomination.
Meanwhile, in New Hampshire, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie announced he's suspending his campaign. Christie caught on a hot mic before the event, taking swipes at Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, saying, quote, DeSantis called me petrified, and she's gonna get smoked. She's not up to this. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Well, Water Conservation Week is upon us, and there's a call for entries from the Board of Water Supply. Our Casey Lund explains.
Aloha from the main office here at the Board of Water Supply. This is a great place to go if you want to get some more resources on how you can conserve water at your home or your business. Of course, Water Conservation Week is in May. But the deadline, though, I want to let you know, for the poster and poetry contest, February 28th, and that's why we're talking about it right now. You could also come down and get the 2024 calendar that has many of the past winners for each grade, and it also has the entry form for 2024. And to talk a little bit about that, I want to introduce Christy Siegel. She is an art instructor at Ka'auhau Elementary in Windward, Oahu, formerly Lanikai Elementary. Tell us a little bit about how the Board of Water Supply, the contest, which has been going on for decades, by the way, it's kind of a big deal, I know, works with the curriculum that you teach at your school.
Well, at our school, we really like this contest. It's really fun for the kiddos. Every year they look forward to it. My daughter's actually 30. She remembers doing it when she was young. But we really pride ourselves in integrating all of our INA and how to protect it and recycle and all of those kind of things in with our curriculum that we do with the kiddos. So in art, I like to connect and talk to them about, you know, what they can do to save water. I like to introduce this contest because it gets the conversation going on how we can work together and what you can do at an early age.
It is so cool to see. We picked out some. This is one of your favorites.
Yeah,
We've been here this morning. We picked out some of our favorites to show off throughout the morning here on Sunrise, and I love these. And you know what? It gives me so much hope about the future generation that some of these kids are thinking about this at a really early age. Yeah. So I love sharing this, and we've been sharing some of the past winners throughout the morning as well. But you also have really focused a lot of your professional life in this arena as well. We have some of the covers from all of your awesome books and illustrations. What's kind of your philosophy behind your work, and why are you so passionate about it?
Well, when I was a little girl, this is the kind of thing I did. And we didn't have art teachers in school. My teacher did a little bit and that kind of thing. And so I love sharing my passion of art with the kids. And I tell them when I'm doing a book, you know, I show them what I'm doing, and then we get to talk about it, and then they get to see the finished result. So they get to see an application of what they do. And honestly, I tell them, you guys are so much better than I ever was at your age, you know, so keep going, keep striving. And it's not just for art, but just like anything they do that they're scared to do. We start with like really simple shapes. Anybody can draw a line, you know, and then we just go from there. And so we do that with this contest also. We're like, think small, you know, popcorn ideas out. What can you do with water at home, at the beach, you know, we talk about the INA and how our water here and resources are so important, and it, you know, comes from the mountains and into the streams and Ke'elapulu and into the ocean and where they live and where they play and how. So our water, our home, you know, that one's a great one to connect to.
And I think especially, you know, the challenging stories that are in the news with both Red Hill and the things that many of our friends are still dealing with on Maui, it's never been more important to spread those conservation messages to the youngest people in our state. Christy, thank you so much. A reminder, the deadline, February 28th. You can also come by the Board of Water Supply, get your 2024 calendar. The entry form might be easier, though, to go online, hawaiinewsnow.com. We have a link to do all of that. Again, February 28th, the deadline. Don't forget. I'll send things back to you for now.
Thank you so much, Casey Lund. Let's go ahead and take you live outside now for a look at Sin City, Las Vegas.
Oh, there's the Sphere.
Yes, the Sphere. It is about 50 degrees there. Gotta love Las Vegas in the cooler temperatures. Definitely
Agreed.
Summertime, it's too rough. Right after this short break, we'll have more news and weather coming right up.
So for the better part of the day, it should be fairly dry. That front's going to come into Oahu by this afternoon with scattered showers through tonight. And the winds will be shifting. And once that front moves through, we'll get westerly winds. They'll be quite breezy. And they'll also usher in a very cool air mass that will stick around for the next several days. It's going to be chilly. So today, the front's going to hit Kauai first this morning, move down to Oahu by the afternoon, move on to Maui County and Hawaii Island by tonight. So today should be pretty nice. So there's the movement of the front. Again, due onto Kauai and Oahu by this afternoon, moving down the island chain through tonight. And by tomorrow morning, things should be fairly dry. And then the next round of rain coming in next week, probably on Tuesday. But even that's not going to bring any significant rainfall. We're going for kind of a windy stretch, at least today and tomorrow. And it's also going to usher in a cooler air mass right behind that front. Look at the overnight temperatures dropping into the low 60s from Friday all the way through Monday. It's going to be a chilly weekend. Again, we're going to see a few showers this afternoon through tonight, just a few minor splashes tomorrow, and then should be drying up for the weekend.
Next time on Investigate TV Plus, skill games that look like slot machines are popping up in gas stations across the country.
It's like putting a buffet full of desserts at an Overeaters Anonymous meeting.
We investigate the legal gray area some say leaves gambling addicts paying the price when the machines are everywhere they turn.
Rental car company Hertz is selling off about a third of its electric vehicle fleet and using the money to buy gasoline-powered cars instead. That amounts to about 20,000 electric vehicles. Hertz made a big push into EVs in recent years, but now the company says they are hurting its bottom line. That's because despite EVs costing less to maintain, they're reportedly getting into more crashes and costing about twice as much to repair. Rapid depreciation is also a problem. Now, Hertz says price cuts in the new car market, driven primarily by Tesla, are pushing down the resale value of its used EV rental cars. For rental car companies like Hertz, which sells lots of vehicles in the used car market, depreciation has a big impact. According to an SEC filing, Hertz expects to lose about $245 million due to depreciation on its EVs. EVs make up about 11% of their total rental fleet.
Well, there's a new addition to the Face Planters Hall of Fame. But because he's a superhero and not someone you expect to see fall on his face, it's bringing both glee and terror to a group of kids. Jeannie Moose has more.
He can slam a Jeep. He can toss a bear. He can wrestle a bull by its horns. But the Hulk met his match at a birthday party for a 4-year-old in Brazil when his toes couldn't handle the flooring. The little girl who came closest to getting squished by the bulk of the Hulk seemed delighted. But look at the terrified face of the girl fleeing with her dolly. And thus the Hulk joined the ranks of the Face Planters, the singer who found himself skating on thin carpet, but continued to sing. The contestants in the Grandparents' Derby, even the Atlas robot, but at least the robot managed to get up by himself. Unlike the Hulk, who needed help, the godfather of the birthday boy says the superhero was uninjured, got up and danced. But when you hire a fill-in for $143 the same day as the party, after the original guy you booked disappeared, well, you can't expect your Hulk to be incredible. Jeannie Moose, CNN, New York.
Well, I guess that's proof that even the best of the superheroes sometimes stumble and fall.
Yeah. Trip hazard there, those doors.
As long as you get up and try again. That's what matters. That's the life lesson for today.
So if you're a fellow Friends fan, listen up, guys. 2 original scripts from the show are going up for auction. Officials there have the guide price started at around $760. The episodes, the one with Ross's wedding, part 1 and part 2, were filmed at Fountain Studios in London. When work was done, these scripts were thrown in the trash, later to be picked up by an employee, placed in a drawer, and forgotten about for years. Great episodes.
Wow. You're a Friends fan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As a lover of television scripts, and if you remember the Betty White auction.
How much did you pay? Was it 760?
It was about 6,000.
Okay, no, you didn't.
No, the auction house severely underestimated the value of everything, and that went for about $6,000. So I can appreciate that.
$760's a deal.
It is. Let's end today with a live look at New York City. We thank you all so much for watching. Have a great afternoon.